A bill intended to change Kentucky's justice system was filed yesterday in Frankfort. Representatives T.J. Roberts and Dan Pfister are sponsoring Logan's Law. It's named after 6-year-old Logan Tipton, who was violently killed in 2015. The man charged in his death, Ronald Exantis, was later found not guilty of Logan's murder by reason of insanity. He was found guilty but mentally ill of assault for stabbing Logan's family members during that attack. Exantis served 7 years before being released last fall on mandatory reentry supervision. He was arrested in Florida days later and is now serving out his sentence here in Kentucky. WKYT's Maggie Rickerby joins us now live in studio. Maggie, you've spoken with the Tipton family several times since Exantis was released. What have they told you about this bill?
Right. The Tipton family has been working alongside Representative T.J. Roberts to create this bill in Logan's name. It was officially filed yesterday. House Bill 422, or Logan's Law, aims to put stricter barriers on releasing felons like Ronald Exantis from prison. It would also reform mandatory reentry supervision, which Exantis was released on last fall, and reevaluate the insanity defense and split verdicts on mental illness or guilt.
This bill sends a message that Logan Tipton didn't die for nothing. It sends a message that his life had meaning.
Logan's Law has more than 30 sponsors, including Representative T.J. Roberts. If passed, the bill would make it so anyone found guilty of capital crimes or capital A or B felonies would automatically be ineligible for mandatory reentry supervision. Those found guilty of a violent Class D or C felony would also be ineligible if the parole board unanimously voted not to grant them parole. Kentucky's parole board unanimously voted 3 times not to release Ronald Exantis, but state law required he be released on mandatory reentry supervision.
If the parole board isn't comfortable with these offenders living in their communities, Kentuckians should not be forced to have these offenders in their communities.
Under Logan's Law, if someone commits a violent felony with multiple victims, the sentencing would be consecutive for each victim.
We already do that for sex crimes. It makes sense to also include that for homicides, for assaults, stabbings, so on and so forth.
Representative Roberts says the bill would allow a jury to sentence anyone found guilty of intentional murder to life without the possibility of parole, without aggravators.
Kentucky is one of the few states where life without the parole was off the table for intentional murders. And this changes that.
Finally, the bill would get rid of split verdicts on mental illness or guilt, like the one Exantis received. It would also further clarify and create a process for those found guilty but mentally ill. Roberts says under Logan's Law, they would be institutionalized, then serve their sentence for the crime they committed.
There needs to be something put in place that if people are violent and they say they're insane and they are deemed insane, then there has got to be a place for these people. They cannot be out walking amongst us.
Roberts says so far the bill has received bipartisan support, and he's confident it will pass.
We as a Commonwealth failed to protect the Tipton family and to preserve their dignity. This is us taking accountability for that failure and making sure that this never happens again in the Commonwealth.